Sunrise Interviews is brought to you by Valley Strong Credit Union.
6:19 is your time now, and as children take to using the internet for school and their social lives more than ever right now, the question becomes how to protect them from harmful material or people who would contact them online. You may have also seen marches and posts recently regarding preventing child sex trafficking. So joining us a little bit to talk a little bit this morning about what signs of exploitation can look like online and offline, Jessica Burzloff, a local licensed marriage and family therapist. Good morning, Jessica. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So first, let's talk about what child exploitation is.
Right. So really that is, I use that term to capture both sexual abuse and human trafficking. And something that's important to point out is 27% of the human trafficking victims in the world are children, and many of them are not trafficked for sex, but rather for labor. So labor trafficking is actually a huge problem. Not that sexual exploitation is not either, but that's something to kind of clear up a little bit.
How do you start talking to your kids about this at a young age so that you're comfortable having this conversation and they're comfortable talking to you if they're ever in trouble?
Yes, so the big thing is to start young, and by that I don't mean start talking about exploitation when they're young, rather start talking about bodily autonomy and boundaries and safe touch and all of those types of things from the time your children are little. For example, I have a baby who is just over a year old, and I still let him know, and it's not that I ask permission when I change his diaper, but I'm telling him, mommy's changing your diaper now and things like that, and giving them bodily autonomy, even from a very young age, can put a lot of protections in place for later on.
And how can we teach them consent and when it's okay for someone to approach them or touch them, as in like give them a hug or something like that? It just seems like something we don't even really think about. Go hug so-and-so, don't forget to give them a hug before you leave. Is that really an important thing to talk about with our kids?
It is. If you really think about it, forcing hugs or touch on children, especially children who maybe are more reserved or shy, what message are we sending them? To me, that message sounds a lot like, your body is not your own and adults get to have say over what you do. And the saddest part of the child exploitation thing is in 93% of cases, the victim knew their perpetrator. So the perpetrator was either a parent or a family friend or a sibling or somebody that they met online. And so it's this false narrative that most kids who are abused are kidnapped or abducted. That's just not true. Most kids that are abused by people they know. So when we force kids to hug or we're giving them this implicit message that their body is not their own, that grown-ups get to say what happens to their body, and that is just a really bad message to send.
And then quickly, what kind of warning signs can we look for in our children?
Right. So with older children and teens, if you're worried that they might be getting exploited online, if they're being more secretive, if they aren't sharing about who they're talking to online, if you suddenly notice them having, they suddenly have fancy gifts or money that they didn't have before, if you see anything in terms of behavioral changes that seem to come out of the blue or appetite changes, sleep changes, things like that, definitely there might be something going on.
Okay, and then younger kids, obviously going to be a little different, but also the secretive, probably more reserved and drastic behavior changes as well. Jessica, yes. We are out of time this morning, but thank you so much. We appreciate you weighing in on this topic.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
And we'll be right back.